Have you heard of the coronavirus, the disease that has flipped our world upside down? Surely you have, and my research on this has helped me understand the virus much better. It's something I hope to share with you in this speech today. In the speech, I will go over what led up to the pandemic, how our lives have been impacted, and how our futures have changed. The first step to understanding our pandemic's present and future is understanding how it began. COVID-19 stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019, with coronavirus being the class of disease it is, disease representing the fact that it is a disease and not another health risk, and 2019 being the first year that cases were reported. Bristol University Press's Robin Hamilton states that the first coronavirus to reach epidemic level was SARS, with epidemic level being the level below pandemic, which coronavirus is currently at. SARS infected 8,000 people and killed 10% of that number in 2002 to 2003 before it was ultimately contained before running rampant like COVID-19 has in the last year. However, these numbers are dwarfed by COVID-19, with COVID-19 reaching 51.2 million cases and 1.3 million deaths worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. A graph by Johns Hopkins University shows the top 10 cases per country, with the United States in green right here leading, and other countries showing a larger control over the virus than the United States has. It is widely believed the ground zero of the virus was Wuhan, China, in a wet market. But Hamilton points out that China has been notoriously closed off with its reporting of information and numbers over the virus, so it is not 100% known to be the birthplace of the virus. Now that we know the backstory behind the pandemic, we can get into the effects. Lots of these effects are obvious, but some of them aren't and are a little more nuanced and under the surface than you would expect. Joel Best of the Bristol University Press has three main effects that the coronavirus and pandemic has pointed out in society. It has exposed weak healthcare, it has a rise in false reporting, and it has caused social unrest. First off, the healthcare system was exposed as being grossly unprepared for a pandemic of this sort, and this has been showed by lots of people lacking healthcare and not being able to pay for treatment, or hospitals being overwhelmed in some parts of the country where cases are high, and people being turned away like that, and a lack of PPE, the masks, lots of factors have led up to the healthcare system being exposed. Second off, the pandemic has monopolized the news cycle, and with such a rise in reporting on one subject, and with not a lot of new information coming out every day, a lot of the information is repeated, and when stuff is repeated, it can be warped or even stated as blatantly untrue on unmoderated mediums such as social media or other unreliable sources. And lastly, social unrest has been caused by the coronavirus, with lots of people being unhappy with how the government has, reacted over the virus, and with other people being unhappy with how people are not responding to the virus and not following the government's orders, with protests being held over the mask mandates and people counter-protesting over people protesting the mask mandates and not wearing a mask, other stuff like how the government is, basically how people are saying the government is infringing on their rights. However, not all impacts of the virus are bad, with Robin Hamilton of the Bristol University Press stating that coyotes at the Golden Gate Bridge have been seen, and this is a big example of how nature is reclaiming its place in Western society. And Snehal Lokhandwala is an Indian reporter, and they write that smog has given way to blue skies in Delhi, which is one of the most polluted cities in the world, coming in 5th in IQ Air's rankings in 2019. And this has been shown that even in a place like India, where the coronavirus disease has not had a huge impact in their life like it has in the United States or other places in the world, it is still shown that nature is healing over the lack of human interaction, with the lack of commuting and other factors that humans aren't polluting the environment. Even in this small time span, the nature is healing. Next step to understanding the virus is the future impacts that it could have. COVID-19 will impact our future. The only question is how. Thierry Tardy said in an article published to the NATO Defense College that coronavirus has impacted the very foundations of state in North America. And in a really poignant display of how coronavirus has impacted our lives, he called COVID the war with no enemy, meaning that COVID disrupts our lives, it kills people just like an enemy, foreign enemy fighting a nation would do. Another impact is destabilizing Western Hemisphere. Dr. R. Evan Ellis suggests a rise in poverty in poor countries such as poorer parts of Mexico or Venezuela will make conditions perfect for recruitment in cartels and other drug smuggling areas. And as these drug smuggling and other crime syndicates in South America and Central America and even North America grow, they may become too powerful for governments to control them, and it can cause civil war in these countries and ultimately destabilize the whole Western Hemisphere, and even in the Eastern Hemisphere in other ways. This can destabilize the whole world scene if not handled well. Overall, everyone in the world knows of COVID, and knowing the facts is important to being safe and being knowledgeable over the subject. Our past, present, and future are very scary, but we will get through this, and having the info is what will help get us through it as united and possible as we can together.